Greetings. I'm jumping on here quickly because I have a confession to make. This witch screwed up. Yes, even those seasoned witches who have been practicing for a long time, and I've been here on YouTube talking to you for 7 years probably now, and telling you all these things, all my wisdom. I have to say that I'm learning just the same as everybody else. And sometimes I have to learn the same lesson over and over again. I just want to show you a little problem that I made for myself that I'm sure some of you have made, and I'm just going to show you a little quick solution, I hope, to my problem. You might recognize this cloth. If you've watched any of my tarot videos, you probably do, at least recently, because I've been using this cloth on top of my reading cloth on my reading table when I do tarot videos, because in order to get cards to show up well, some cards are a little difficult to see because of the graphics on the card. They don't translate well on camera, so I find a nice solid background is something that is good to use. So I just threw this cloth a while ago out on my tarot table, on my reading table, and it's been there since. And this is normally a runner. It's long. It's used for this table. It fits this table. This rather big table I have here in my kitchen, and I use it all the time, especially this time of the year. When, I've kept this in my parlor because I haven't had any dinner parties or anything recently. But anyway, it's worked beautifully for me for what I was using it for. But I got a little cocky pants, and I did a stupid thing on this cloth. A couple weeks ago, I was doing a spell, and I was sharing a spell, and I lit candles on a tile. Which I always do. I always light candles on a tile, but instead of like one or two little candles, I had several candles on this tile. And on a small tile, and usually if I'm using that many candles, I use a bigger tile, so I have more room. And I also have a tile that's sort of concave, so that if I light candles on it, the wax will hold. Well, you can guess what happened on one of my little 4x4 square inch square tiles, that the wax from these candles, as it was a spell candle burning down, flooded out and went all over my cloth. And because I was too lazy to go into the other room to get the bigger tile. We've all done that. We've all been there. I don't need to explain. But the problem is this cloth, and here's what I ended up with. This is just one big mess. This is a giant wax of black candle. Here's some other candles that I have. I have another smaller spot somewhere else. This is what I've tried to dig some of this off. Now, the problem with any wax is, even if I can get the wax out of the cloth, it's likely to leave a stain. So I want to really try to do a good job trying to remove it, as this is a cloth I use in my kitchen. I am not going to say that it doesn't really matter if I just use it in my parlor for spell work, etc. But I have to tell you that, as much as I realize that a scarf that I put on a table, like a ritual table, or on my spell table, that it's there for a purpose. It serves a purpose. So if a little bit of wax gets on it, that's okay. It's just doing its job. A little bit doesn't bother me too much, but a big amount like this really bothers me. And it particularly bothers me when it's a cloth that I shouldn't have been using there in the first place. I should have just kept it for my kitchen use. But I did it. I have to I have to fess up here. I did it, and I have to suffer the consequence. So I just want to show you what I'm going to try to do. It's complicated a little bit by the fact that this is a woven fabric. Some fabrics are easier than others to remove, and I thought this is one worthwhile to show you because it's woven. And so therefore it has ridges. So it has little ridges that the wax has gone down into, and it has ridges that the melted wax can work into and grip. It can hold on in the little crevices. So it makes it all that more difficult to get off. So I'm going to just do one thing at a time and see what happens. And the first thing I'm going to do is try to get as much of the wax off the cloth by sort of picking it off. But I have to be very careful because the fibers of the cloth are holding on. So I'm going to see if it helps at all to put this in the freezer. That often will help. It will get the wax brittle. Putting something with candle wax on it in the freezer makes the wax, normally makes it brittle, and it's sometimes easier to pick off. I'm not sure if that'll work or not, but I'm going to see. I'm going to just see, and because it's still rather warm here. And then I'm going to come back and show you the best way I know of to remove the wax. So I'm going to put this in the freezer, and then I'll be back a little later, and I will show you the next step. I have my cloth now. I've taken down the freezer. It's been in there quite a while. My wax is really cold, and I just have a regular dinner knife here. I want to caution you though, because a lot of knives, the newer knives anyway, the bottom edge of the knife has a serrated edge, a little bit of a serrated edge. Examine whatever you use to make sure. Some of them are more pronounced than others. This is not so bad. It's somewhat subtle. But if I keep digging on this cloth with that serrated knife, it's gonna damage the threads of my cloth. So I'm gonna use the top edge, which has no serrating at all. I'm also gonna maybe use the handle, because I want to kind of crack up this wax. I can even maybe bend it. There you go. If I keep bending it this way, because I'm going to try to peel that off as much as I can. This is really the worst case scenario with this woven cloth, to try to remove this because of the way the threads are. I'm just putting the pieces on the table over here. There you go. Because I don't want to damage the threads of my cloth. And again, by bending them, breaking them, it crumbles it. It somewhat crumbles it. And it helps it release. So then I can get my knife under little pieces of that. I wonder if I can move this knife over without causing too many problems for you. I have a lamp here, so I can see, because I have to be able to see it. It's more important that I see this than you see this, even though, what's the point of the video if you can't see it? But what's the point of me doing it if I can't see it to do it right? Okay, you see, I'm taking lots, so a lot of this is coming off the surface. You see those little crumbs? And I'm going to just keep dumping them on my table because I don't want them to cause more problems in other places on the cloth. There, if I go this direction, just go down on my knife. This is the same position I hold a paring knife when I'm trying to use the tip of it, control the tip of the paring knife. Because then I can just really work at the wax instead of working at and instead of digging into that cloth. I don't want to damage the threads of my cloth. Okay? And again, I'm trying to work kind of quickly because it's a rather warm day, of course, like it always is. It's the story of my life here, and I don't want the wax to soften. If the wax softens too much, it'll be harder to get out of the fabric. But it's important that I get as much as I can with the knife. And again, I'm going on the dull edge, the top side of my knife. So you see, I'm removing quite a lot of wax. But a lot remains. You can tell I have a really bad stain here. A lot of wax still remains. So, and again, I want to take my time and do it as the best I can. I'm tempted to go faster because I'm angry at the wax and I want it to come out of the cloth. So I'm tempted to go a little quickly, but it doesn't do any good. Just trying to get as much as I can. So I have less of a problem to deal with. The smaller the problem, the easier it can be solved. Okay, I scraped as much of it as I possibly really thought I could safely off of this cloth. I realize from your viewpoint this still looks really bad. It is really bad, but I'm really afraid of damaging the weave of this fabric. So I'm ready for the second part, which is really the most important part or the most effective part, really. Is I have a hot iron here, no steam, just hot iron. Some paper towels. I'm just going to take a moment and put this old towel underneath first to protect my table. I've got a table here from my hot iron, and then I'm going to put a double thickness of paper towels on top of that underneath my stains. Then I'm going to take 2 thicknesses of paper towels, and these are these little half sheets, and I think that'll work. So I'm just going to lay 2 of those over top. It's going to take quite a few paper towels for me, but if your stain is not too bad, you won't need as many as I do. And then you just take the iron, no steam, just a nice hot iron, and you begin ironing. And what happens is that wax, it's supposed to come from the cloth to the paper towel on the top, or maybe to the paper towel on the bottom. You see it's starting to come. And you just keep applying heat so that you can lift the wax. Here we come. Out of the cloth. Whoops. Yes, of course, it is November, and yes, of course, I do have my fan still on. Here we see the wax is starting to come through. That's exactly what we wanted to do. And I'm going to keep moving that. My paper towel, because I want to continue to have the wax come up. These are kind of thick paper towels, so maybe one paper towel would be enough. But I don't want to get the wax on my iron. That would be bad. I'm not sure the setting. I think I have this on the cotton setting, which is high, because this is a cotton, 100% cotton fabric. Here we go. See, it's coming. And I just want to keep repositioning. And that maybe works better, because that is a double thickness. I just folded it over. And I want to keep checking, as I'm doing this, I want to keep checking underneath to make sure that I don't have all the wax dripping on underneath, and I really do not. So I would probably end up doing this on one side and then flipping my fabric, which is heavy, over to get it to come up on the other side. And you just have to be patient. You just have to be patient with this. It's just not my strong suit. I'm kind of patient, but I'm not really that patient when it comes to things like ironing. Oh my, we used to have to do, we've made a lot of silk banners in our day, in our time in the SCA, which we hang over our camps. And oh, we have these big long banners that we've done, my husband and I and our friends have painted. And oh my, to set the dye in those flags, we used to have to iron them in to set the color, keep it from running. There you go. You see it's lifting it up. And oh, we'd have to iron. I think it was something like 3 minutes in every part of the flag. We had to go like 3 minutes. And how do you stand there for 3 minutes as one part of the flag moving? And these banners would be like 5 feet long, 6 feet long. That's a lot of ironing. So I used to sing. I used to have to sing a little song to time it. I'm throwing that one away. I have a recycle bin over here for my paper products. And I'm just going to keep moving the iron. Now, how do you know when you're done? Well, you're going to see the wax is going to be gone. But you don't want to feel any wax left in the fabric. That's the trick. Which is going to be tricky to look at because, of course, we have stains going to be left on the fabric. And I apologize. This is really not interesting video at all. I'm sure I will get some thumbs down. But you know, this is part of being a witch. If you're going to have candles, you're going to have some spills. It's just part of life. And you could go through your magical career and you could not have any altar cloths on your altars and not anything under things. But I think a lot of people do. Or they use disposable things, paper plates, and I don't like to judge, but let's be honest, I'm going to judge. I think that takes some of the magic away. Give me some thumbs down. I don't care. I just think it takes some of the magic away. You need that. Your altar is a place. It's a special place. It's a sacred space. For doing magic, for doing whatever you're doing there. It needs to be treated with respect, and it needs to be elevated. It's not just a table. When it becomes an altar space, it's not just a table. Okay, I see I have a little piece up here I can try to get. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over and try to go from the back, because I don't feel a lot of wax still here on the top. I don't know if you can see that it's kind of coming out. Let me see here. There we go. You see I saw some. Here's some coming on my underside. Okay, now I'm going to just flip this over. And see what happens. When I try to remove it from this side. This is the worst video I've ever done, but the most important, one of the most important. I will be sure to say in the title of the video what this is about, so you can just, if you didn't like it, if you knew what it was about and you watched anyway, it's not my problem. I warned you. Okay. But anyway, this is a part of it. This is a part of it. This is a part of housekeeping that we all have to do. We all have to do this. If you need a sterile, clean environment around you all the time, maybe you need to find a different job. Maybe being a witch isn't a good job, a good match for you. Maybe not a good career choice. I'm losing my light, so I want to finish up the video as fast as I can here so you can see what I'm doing. It looks like this one is much improved, but it's still here. But when I feel it, I really don't feel much of any wax in there at all. This is pretty much a stain over here I do not feel. And I found another one over the end here that I worked on. And got a lot of that out. I guess that was from another time. So I just want to show you what I'm going to do next. I think the dilemma that I have left is that I have a stain from black wax on my cloth. Because if there's no more wax in there, I can live with this. So what I have done here is I have just made up a paste. I probably should have done that in front of you. But it's just a couple spoons of baking soda and a little bit of water, just enough to make it the consistency I wanted. And like a paste. This is a little bit runnier than I would maybe use, but normally. But I have a thick fabric, so I really want it to soak down in the fabric. So I'm just going to be putting this in my area and rubbing this in the stains, using my fingers and just kind of rubbing that in. It's almost like a pre-wash kind of a thing. And then this whole, just see if I can get that stain out. And then that's this whole cloth. I'm going to put in my sink with some dish soap and some warm water. Just gently soak it. It's kind of dirty anyway, so. You can use other things if you have different kind of fabric. This is just very delicate. I don't want to use anything harsh, and baking soda is just a nice non-toxic cleaner. And you can sort of judge by how it's coming along, if it's coming. I'm going to pour some water on here and just work it in more, remembering I have my towels underneath. And you can kind of see, maybe you can see in the video, that the stain here is lightened up considerably. Now the good news is, if this does not take it out, I'm not setting the stain. You know the danger you have when you put things in the washer or whatever, and you haven't gotten the stain out completely, and then you run it through the dryer, the stain's in there for all time. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wash this gently in the sink and allow it to just air dry. I'm going to hang it to dry. So if any of the wax is still in there, well, I'll be able to tell that when it dries, and I can do the process again. I can repeat the process. But for now, the idea is to get it so that I can use it, so that I can use this back into my kitchen. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and put more of this on here. And that's it, and I'm just going to continue to rub it in. Because again, this is overkill probably for what kind of a cloth you might have, but, and I'm using my fingers. You can use a brush, a soft brush, but I want to caution you, you do not want to, you don't want to be hard on your fibers. I keep pouring water on here to see, because when my fabric is wet, it looks darker, and I can't tell if it is just dark from being wet or if it's dark from the stain. So. I think that's really coming along really good. Okay, so what I will do is I will just, again, I will continue to work this a little bit, and I will then rinse it out real good, and I will actually put it in my sink with some dish soap and allow it to soak, allow it to wash. Soak a little bit, then I'll rinse it gently, allow it to hang, and then we'll look at it again in the better light and see how we have it. So, that's the process. Your results may vary, how successful you are, but depending on what fabric you started out with. But it's a real good, kind of a general method. Okay? And we'll catch up with you later to see how it worked. My cloth is just about dry, and I wanted to show you the results I got from one treatment. I'm sure you can see the lights are really wonderful in here, but I still have a little bit of a stain. It's not a huge stain like it was. It's faint. If I feel it, I feel there might be a little bit of wax in there, but I really cannot tell that there is. So if I wanted to try ironing again, but I think it's mostly just the stain. I maybe want to try something. I could try something a little stronger than the baking soda and water combination. I don't want to bleach my fabric though. I want to be real careful about that. But there's no the ugliness of the black candle wax is gone. You know, for all intents and purposes, it's really gone. So I'm gonna have to make a decision. Do I want to replay or not? I think if you try this at home on a better fabric than I'm using, and maybe you're a little more timely getting the wax off of yours, I let mine sit for a little while before I try to remove it. You might have a better result. I just want to recap what we did here today to make sure that you get the points. The most important points of this are, number one, in a timely manner, as soon as you can. You want to try to remove the wax, the biggest part of the wax. And it's usually done easier if you can freeze it, or just, if you can't put it in a freezer, you can just get a bag of ice and hold it on there, and then try to chip some of that off. And remember, I broke it up by wrinkling the fabric under the wax, and that helped break the wax into little pieces. And then, of course, I want to pick that off as carefully as I can, and then do the ironing. And you can use paper toweling, or you could use, I used to use just brown paper from like a brown paper bag. Works really well for that too. You don't have to use paper toweling. Making sure that you have something underneath your cloth and something underneath your cloth. And then it's just, then if you have any stain left, some fabric won't stain at all. If you're lucky, your fabric won't stain. My fabric stains a little worse because I have, like I said, this is a woven cotton, and so it stains a little worse. But other than that, you know, you get out what you can, and hopefully you're using altar cloths for altars or spell table cloths for spell tables, and you're not using your kitchen tablecloth for your spell tables. Now, of course, we do burn candles on this table too. So worst comes to worst, if I have a stain that I can get out, as my husband says, just get a bigger candle and put it on the table on top of the stain. So maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, I hope this helped. Bottom line, you know it's going to happen. Take the precautions beforehand so that you're not sorry later. But if you're sorry, if it happens anyway, you can still get it out. Okay, thanks for watching. As always, I am Rebecca, and I wish you blessings.